If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below. As a child growing up in the 1970s and 80s, even if I didn't realise it at the time, was the greatest time of TV history. You've got to remember, this was a time when we weren't spoiled or inundated with countless TV shows we could have instantly. One of my must-watch shows as a kid was the TV series The Incredible Hulk. When you look back on it now, watching a bodybuilder with green makeup on isn't all that convincing, but to a kid in the late 1970s, it was the greatest thing ever. During the 1970s, thanks to shows like The $6 Million Man, there was a newfound popularity for superhero-inspired shows and movies. Marvel Comics had major success on TV with The Incredible Hulk and The Amazing Spider-Man. Since its debut in 1978, The Incredible Hulk series has enthralled audiences for a number of years. Even today, there is a loyal fan base. The story of The Incredible Hulk revolved around a scientist, David Bruce Banner, who after the tragic death of his wife from a car accident, starts to play around with the theory that high levels of gamma radiation from sunspots can increase a person's strength. He tests this theory by putting high amounts of gamma radiation into his own body. The experiment goes horribly wrong, transforming Banner into a 7-foot tall, 150 kilogram green-skinned beast with superhuman strength. The beast reveals itself during high points of stress, causing Banner to get angry, turning him into the Incredible Hulk.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
After a number of deaths get pinned on Banner, he disappears, drifting from place to place, taking on different identities, and doing random jobs to support himself and his research. In 1977, Frank Price, the studio head of Universal Television, offered the producer and writer Kenneth Johnson a deal to develop a TV show based on any of the many characters licensed to Marvel Comics. At first, Johnson would turn down the offer, but would realize, after the success of his show The $6 Million Man, that there was a great appeal for superhero shows. After reading the Victor Hugo novel Les Miserables, Johnson became inspired to add the character reporter Jack McGee, who would pursue the creature throughout the series, not unlike the character Gerard pursuing Kimball in the classic TV series The Fugitive. The character McGee would also be based on the character Thunderbolt Ross, an army general who pursues the Hulk in the comic book. Writer Kenneth Johnson would add a few changes to the story, but still respect the original content of the comic book series. Hulk's creator, Stan Lee, said the Hulk was actually inspired by Frankenstein's monster and from the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story. Johnson would work closely with Stan Lee and hired Lee as consultant on the show. Johnson wanted the live-action Hulk to be more believable and acceptable to a wide audience. Producer Johnson disliked the comic and wanted the show to be much different from the source material as possible. Johnson apparently found it frustrating to work with Stan Lee and even suggested to Lee that the Hulk's skin color be red, believing it would reflect the character's anger. Stan Lee rejected this idea, but Marvel would later incorporate Johnson's idea of a Red Hulk, introducing a Red Hulk in the comic books. Johnson would make more changes. For instance, in the comic book, Hulk's alter ego's name is Dr. Bruce Banner, but Johnson, for the TV series, changed the name to Dr. David Banner because he wanted to get as far away as possible from the comic book. CBS also thought the name Bruce sounded too gay, a notion which sounds absolutely ridiculous to me. Producer Kenneth Johnson said it was actually his way to honor his son, David. Bruce then became Banner's middle name on the show. The full name is actually shown on Banner's tombstone at the end of the pilot movie and is shown at the beginning of every episode in the series. In the Hulk comic, Hulk had a small speaking ability, but in the television show, Hulk did not speak at all. He would just growl and roar. Stan Lee would explain,
When we started the television show, Ken said to me, Stan, I don't think the Hulk should talk. The minute he said it, I knew he was right. Because in the beginning, I had the Hulk talking like this. Hulk crush. Hulk get him, Oh, I could get away with it in a comic, but that would have sounded so silly if he spoke that way in a television show. So by having him not talk at all, I think he made it more like a real monster and more frightening than that silly pigeon dialogue.
Stan Lee, in a 2000 interview, had fond memories of the show.
The Hulk television show, I thought, was wonderful. It was created and done by Kenneth Johnson, who I think did a brilliant job, and I got quite friendly with him in the course of it. He was so smart. He took a character which, in live-action television, might have been unbearably foolish-looking, with nonsensical stories, and he made it as palatable for grown-ups as for kids, maybe more so.
To cast the show, they needed the lead actor to be convincing. This was extremely important, and I think actor Bill Bixby was perfect as Banner, and gave the show a great depth and intelligence, making it more than just a kids' show. Bill Bixby was Kenneth Johnson's first and only choice. Bill Bixby originally had some reservations about doing an adaptation of a superhero character for TV, as he felt it would be ridiculous. During the time of casting for The Incredible Hulk, Bixby had a script for a historical TV miniseries, for which he was also offered. However, upon reading the script for The Incredible Hulk pilot episode, he grew more enthusiastic and decided to take on the role. Bill Bixby said that prior to the show's premiere, he was openly questioned as to why he agreed to be cast as the star of the series based on a comic book. Bixby responded by telling them that the series wasn't at all like they thought, and to give it a chance once it started to air. Actor Jack Colvin was cast as Jack McGee, the newspaper reporter in pursuit of the Hulk. Jack Colvin said that when he was first offered this role, he laughed, but was convinced to take the role after he read the first two scripts. Arnold Schwarzenegger was originally considered for the role of the Hulk, but was considered too short, at only 6'2". But the main reason was that Schwarzenegger was declined, because he was working on Conan the Barbarian at the time, so he recommended bodybuilder Lou Ferrigno. It so happened that Ferrigno was an avid fan of the Hulk comic book. Ferrigno credited the Hulk character in helping to inspire him to help overcome the difficulties he faced relating to his hearing disability and other issues he was dealing with.
I'm interested in the kinds of things that you were interested in when you were a little boy, because you were little one time, weren't you?
Oh, sure. Everybody knows they're aware that I'm slightly hard of hearing. It's something I wasn't born with it, but I was inflicted with an ear infection at the age of 3. And
at 3 years old?
Yeah, it caused nerve damage. So I had to specialize on reading lips and the first form of communication. And I've been at it for 15 years, so that's why I have the determination I have now, whatever I've done, and as far as I can achieve whatever I want to achieve in life.
Richard Kiel was originally hired for the role of the Hulk, but after the pilot began filming, producer Johnson's son actually pointed out that Kiel's taller but underdeveloped physique did not resemble the Hulk's at all. Kiel shot a few scenes, and one scene was actually used in the pilot, so he was replaced by Ferrigno. Ted Cassidy, famous for his role as Lurch on The Addams Family, was hired as the narrator and uncredited voice of the Hulk. Originally, the Hulk's facial makeup was quite scary looking, but after both pilots, the first 2 weekly episodes, the design was toned down. The makeup process took 3 hours. The hard contact lenses Ferrigno wore to simulate the Hulk's electric green eyes had to be removed every 15 minutes because he found wearing them physically painful. The wig that Ferrigno wore was made up of dyed yak hair. To avoid sweating, which would cause his green makeup to come off, Lou Ferrigno would spend most of his time on set in a refrigerated motorhome. The Hulk out moments were the most popular on the show, so the writers would spend hours putting together lists of various scenarios for different Hulk out scenes. In the opening credits of the show, the Hulk is shown picking up a car and rolling it down a hill. This is in fact not a special effect, and when they were filming the scene, they were having problems with the steel cable that was supposed to help Ferrigno lift the car. It was 4 AM in the morning. Ferrigno was cold, wet, and had been working 18-hour days to refilm the Hulk scenes for the pilot. Tired and frustrated, he decided to lift the car himself rather than wait for the special effects team to try to reset the cable. Throughout the series, the Hulk never punched anyone. When confronted, Hulk would always push or throw his attackers in every episode. Two valid reasons for this was mainly because the Hulk would kill a person if he punched them, and another reason was that it would be far too violent for the children audience who watched the show. During the show's run, Bill Bixby was very careful to never be photographed with Lou Ferrigno in his Hulk makeup, because he felt these photos, if released, would destroy the illusion to children and fans of the show. The Incredible Hulk 2-part pilot premiered on November the 4th of 1977. After its debut, Starlog magazine described The Incredible Hulk as one of the most promising shows to appear on TV for quite some time. The show had decent reviews and ratings. The show was considered to be the most successful superhero show of its time. CBS constantly was pushing and adding sci-fi fantasy elements to the show, including aliens. However, actor Bill Bixby always fought to maintain the show's more realistic and dramatic qualities. Bill Bixby was fond of bringing actors on who had been co-stars of his on previous TV shows. Ray Walston, who was the co-star of Bixby in the 60s comedy My Favorite Martian, would appear. Jack Kirby of Marvel Comics would even make a cameo. In 1980, Universal would try to reduce the show's budget, which was $600,000 per episode. The studio would try a number of cost-cutting tactics, including reducing the special effects budget and having the Hulk appear only once per episode. Another proposed change was to add a character who would travel with David in a motorhome. This would reduce the number of sets used, and it was even proposed to eliminate the Jack McGee character. Luckily, this never happened. Throughout the run of the show, producer Kenneth Johnson wanted to continue the tradition he had in his own shows, like the $6 Million Man did with the Bionic Woman, and add a female version of the Hulk. The character of She-Hulk would be used on the series with the intent of making a spin-off into a She-Hulk series. Their plan was to take David's sister, a character already established, and have her receive an emergency blood transfusion from David Banner, which would turn her into She-Hulk. However, due to the show's cancellation, this show would never come to fruition. Incidentally, Marvel Comics learnt of this dropped idea and created She-Hulk for the comics, so they would own the rights to such a character. Because The Incredible Hulk was highly successful and popular, CBS were planning to make 3 superhero shows which were planned for the CBS primetime lineup at the same time as The Incredible Hulk. The planned shows included Spider-Man, Captain America, and Doctor Strange. Unfortunately, the latter 2 characters failed to progress past the feature-length pilot stage. Spider-Man, however, would be picked up with a series starring actor Nicholas Hammond as Peter Parker. CBS, as a part of their lineup at the same time of The Incredible Hulk, also had the DC-owned character Wonder Woman with her own show during the fall of 1977. The Incredible Hulk lasted for 5 seasons. Producer Kenneth Johnson had actually planned to film a 2-hour series finale in which David Banner was put on trial for the death of Elena Marks, the reporter who was killed in the pilot. However, Johnson said that the finale was never written, due to the surprise cancellation of the series. Nevertheless, he admitted that he wanted to do a final episode in which David Banner would have been successfully cured of the Hulk. The show went into syndication in 1982. In 1984, 2 years after the series went off the air, Bill Bixby actually offered actor Nicholas Hammond a chance to reprise his role of Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man TV series for a proposed Hulk Spider-Man TV movie crossover that would have been distributed by Universal Pictures and Columbia Pictures. Hammond agreed to the offer, but Universal Studios cancelled the project, mainly because Lou Ferrigno was unavailable to play the Hulk. Ferrigno said that he was never contacted about the project. Originally, 2 episodes of The Incredible Hulk were going to appear as standalone movies, but were later re-edited into 1-hour length 2-parters for syndication. They were produced as pilots before the series officially began in 1978. The 2 movies were distributed in cinemas in 1977 and were titled The Incredible Hulk and The Return of the Incredible Hulk, which was retitled Death in the Family for syndication. In 1988, filming rights were bought from CBS by NBC, and they would produce 3 television movies titled The Incredible Hulk Returns, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, and The Death of the Incredible Hulk, which were both directed by Bill Bixby. In The Incredible Hulk Returns, the Marvel character Thor would appear in the movie. Thor was played by Steve Levitt. This TV movie was set up for a Thor TV series, which never was made. This project would mark Jack Colvin's final appearance as McGee. In the second TV movie, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, in 1989, the character of Matt Murdock, a blind lawyer whose alter ego is the masked hero Daredevil. They were even planning a Daredevil pilot. Daredevil was played by actor Rex Smith. John Rhys Davies would play Wilson Fisk, who is none other than the villain Kingpin. Stan Lee would make a cameo appearance as one of the jury members. Stan Lee would continue his tradition by making small cameos in every Marvel film to follow until his death. The Death of the Incredible Hulk in 1990 was the 3rd and final TV movie and shows the demise of the Hulk and his alter ego, David Banner, as the Hulk falls from an airplane, reverting back to the human David Banner just before he hits the ground. The ratings for this TV movie were very low. Despite this, they were even still planning to do another Hulk TV movie, with the planned title Revenge of the Incredible Hulk, but it was abandoned due to Bill Bixby's sad passing from cancer in November of 1993. The Incredible Hulk, despite its faults, was a solid, entertaining show, which was mainly due to Bill Bixby's performance as David Banner, and he added a great depth to the show. Lou Ferrigno is unforgettable as the Hulk, and even with the cheesy makeup, comes across quite threatening and scary. It was really one of the first shows of its kind. The Incredible Hulk was certainly a show to be revered and respected. My name's JonBaak. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already.